Okay, good morning, Tuesday. Peace to anybody and everybody that's out there listening, following, checking in. Let's see, we got into a little bit yesterday about my sickness, which is still ongoing. And then we got into, do you guys want to hear about the horrendous things I've been through when I was growing up? And it looks like some people were I guess they like hearing about some horrendous torture and things. So let me tell you a few stories um, about the up to when my mother brought home the monster, and the first things that I remember as a child. My parents were married right out of high school. They'd been together for, I want to say, like 2 years, maybe a year and a half. My father did not graduate. He had to quit school to help my grandmother. He picked vegetables in the town that we grew up on in Fremont, in California. And then he asked my grandfather for permission to marry my mother, and he was told no because he was Mexican. Only part Mexican, half Irish. So he was a tan, tall, dark gentleman with blue eyes. And my mother is English and German. And my grandfather was 100% German and 100% racist. Although I love my grandfather very much, his family moved from Germany after the First World War, but he still had all those racial tendencies against anybody who wasn't white. So the fact that my father was told no, they got pregnant on purpose, even though my mother said it was an accident, and they had me. Now, because my mother was pregnant, she had to get married. So my parents were then allowed to get married. My father and my mother wanted to get married on Valentine's Day, and they ended up getting married in March. And I was conceived in March. And so once my mother was pregnant, by the end of March, they were married. Or probably April, they were married. My parents divorced when my little sister was about 9 months, I think my mother said. So I would have been about a year and a half, almost 2. So I don't have any recollection of any of that time with my father because he left when we were very, very young. And once my father left, my mother was 20 with 2 kids under the age of 2. And she was just didn't go to college, just high school educated. And so she had to move back home. And then she saw what was going on in California in the 60s. And she wanted to enjoy part of her 20s. So she basically wandered for a while. She went to Los Angeles, dated a disc jockey out there for one of the radio stations, dated a boxer, just a lot of dating and the nightlife and having fun, which how can you blame her? But she left us with perfectly wonderful grandparents, besides the fact that my grandfather was a racist. He adored me, and my little sister was my grandmother's favorite. So we sat on every Sunday was our day together. I have an aunt and an uncle that my aunt was 6 when I was born, and my uncle was 9. So we had, little kids in the house with us that were aunts and uncles. And so my Uncle Dell was in Vietnam at the time, and we sat with my grandparents, and my grandmother made bacon and eggs every Sunday, and we had donuts and coffee. And we had coffee. Me and my sister drank coffee with them. Mostly sugar and milk coffee, but it was coffee. and donuts, and my grandfather would read the funny papers to us. And so we grew up from tiny littles, from 2 and 1, and then my mother came back home in the um, probably 69. My brother was born in 1970. So around 69 sometime, it had to be, I want to say fall, because when I went out to wake up this gentleman and his friend, the hitchhiking two of them that came back from Salt Lake City with my mom. My mom lived in Salt Lake City for a while, and she was Mormon. In the Mormon church, you don't become baptized till you're 12, I think. So, but we were Mormons, and then she worked for a company, and the guy and head of the department was an elder at the church and tried to sleep with her, which, disillusioned her on the whole religion thing, because here was something that she thought she was doing right, and then she saw that, everybody sins. I always tell my husband, the most powerful thing in the world, most powerful thing, it overpowers money, it overpowers religion, it overpowers government, it overpowers common sense, it overpowers everything. It is simply sex. Sex is the most powerful tool used on any plane. It's evil. I believe it definitely is evil. It's used for evil purposes. Sex is. Now, there's a difference between sex and love. Sex, love, or sex, lust, and love. There are differences. But I think sex is what makes the world go round. Without it, you would not have like a Jeffrey Epstein using photos, pictures, videos, whatever, flight logs against other people to, for benefits for him. So, yeah, sex is the most evil thing and is used and is against everybody. Anyway, so I was sent out to wake up this gentleman and his friend because breakfast was done and he needed to come inside. Now, mind you, I don't know this person. I'm 5. In fact, I don't know very much of anything because I'm raised in a very conservative home, no cussing, nothing. My grandmother went to church religiously. She was in the church ladies club, Bible study, all that. My grandparents rarely ever kissed in front of us. I think one time I caught them, once. So that kind of stuff was not talked about. It was not talked about. There was no cursing. All there was goodness. It was all goodness. There's no yelling, no screaming, no throwing of things, no holes in the walls. There was nothing like that. Me and my sister were loved and cherished and brought up very, very, and nothing but love and kindness. So, and thankfully so, because I had that instilled in me as a small child. So I knew what was good, that there was good in the world. Because after this moment that I tell you, how I encountered the monster that she brought home, after this, my whole life turned to shit for years. So upon being told to go out and wake up the 2 people in the trailer, I walked into this trailer because this trailer is on my grandparents' property. I was in and out of this trailer all the time. It's a play place for me and my little sister. So I walked in and the 2 gentlemen were naked and the monster was on top of the other monster. And then the vile screaming that came at me with all these F words, which I didn't even understand because nobody had ever said these words to me and nobody's ever screamed at me. And the visceral effect of being screamed at and seeing what I saw, I just shut the door and ran back inside. Now, had I gone ran back inside and told them what I saw, my grandfather would have been out there with a shotgun and that man would have been gone, off the property, kicked. But I didn't know what they were doing because I have never been told about sex of any kind, of any kind. And I don't know what those words mean. All I knew was the yelling and the screaming that I've never been brought up around before scared me so badly that I ran inside and just kept my mouth shut. And when they came inside, my mother went to introduce him to us. And I remember this. I grabbed her leg and I went around her, and he was trying to shake my hand. And I just said repeatedly, he's a bad man. He's a very bad man. And my mother remembers this too. And she said, had I listened to you back then, these things would not have happened to you. So people out there, I'm coming up on the 12 minutes and then they want me to go down on it. My YouTube things. So listen to your children. A lot of kids don't understand what they're seeing or what they're hearing. And when you have a child running back in and then saying this person is bad, ask them why. What did you see? What did they say? What did you feel? Because your child can then tell you, but don't do it right in front of that evil person, because that evil person has already scared them so badly that they're not gonna say anything. So I'm gonna end this one as in, that's how I met this monster. And listen to your children. They know what evil is.